Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Elevate, where we have a very special guest, Param. Welcome to Elevate. Would you like to introduce yourself and share all the good stuff that you do?
Sure. My name is Parm. I am the owner of Conquer Leadership, where ultimately I work to solve the problem of potential. Uh, I fundamentally believe we're all more capable and powerful than we will ever know or give ourselves credit for. When we tap into that potential, change the trajectory of our careers and lives. And that's where I come in to support leaders, organizations, teams to do exactly that through leadership development, team engagement, coaching. When there's legit buy in, man, that transforms communication, connection, collaboration, all that good stuff in the right way. And then when there's one on one coaching involved, individuals either within an organization or just privately, I work with them to help uncover and discover that next best version of you so that we can move you from who you are to who you want to be and expedite results faster than you could alone. That's not to discredit anyone's own individual effort and intention, but we all have a tendency to get in our own way.
Yeah.
So I get to show up as a thinking partner, a talking partner, an accountability partner to really help expedite results. That's what keeps me busy, very busy these days, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to have the conversations that I get to have with leaders and individuals.
Absolutely. It's like a growth buddy with you. It's like somebody who helps you become a better you. I hope I've got that right. Maybe in the most layman term possible, but then yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It, I take a measured approach with the work that we do, and everything is tracked because what doesn't get measured doesn't get done.
Absolutely.
Right. So if it's one-on-one coaching and it's personal growth coaching or executive leadership coaching, we track activity, we track results, and you can track anything, right? You
Absolutely,
can
yeah.
come up with some interesting quantifiable um, ways to measure, put some metrics to it, so then we can then understand, okay, what's moving the needle, what's not, what are you growing in, what's getting in your way, which then ultimately allows you to operate at a slightly different level. And then with their organizations, it's the same thing through custom tailored workshops, training sessions, engagement sessions. It's not just about theory, it's not just about throwing more content at people's faces. You don't need me for content.
Fair.
There's more than enough content out there in the world.
Yeah.
What I'm good at is marrying content, community, and application. So it's okay, well, now you've got the theory and the content. How do you operationalize? How do you implement? Otherwise, we just wasted 3.5 hours in a training session if you're going to forget everything within 48 hours.
Yeah.
So it's how do we actually implement and take action on what it is that we're learning? Because we're overloaded with information.
Yeah.
So how do we implement it?
That makes that's actually so true because if you don't implement what you've learned, what's the point of learning? Or what's the point of getting that information or data that you have got? So I think it's great that you actually help someone implement and help them be where they want to be or where they aspire to be. So, well, congratulations on what you do, and
Thank you
thank
very
you for what you do.
much. Thank you, and thank you for having me. This is great.
Of course, no, welcome once again. Absolutely.
The other piece I'd like to add is what's unique about me and my approach is I'm I'm an exclusive partner with Maxwell Leadership, which is founded by Dr. John Maxwell. I'm a partner with Gallup, and Gallup owns a Clifton Strengths Assessment and a ton of other stuff. So I'm plugged into coaches, trainers, facilitators, presenters, that community around the world. Um, so I get to hear about insights, solutions, trends, typically way before it ever hits the market. Or I can reach out to these individuals for support if I'm looking to bring on other facilitators and coaches with the work that I do. So it's an incredibly powerful network that I'm able to tap into to then ultimately inform the work that I do in a slightly different way, which ultimately means being able to serve and support organizations, teams, and individuals that much more.
That's so essentially you're getting the good stuff way beforehand, which is so good
Yeah.
because then you can actually share more upcoming and latest um, how do you call it, trends,
Yeah.
technologies, or
I get to pass all the
learnings.
good stuff on to
Yeah,
people that I
like
work with.
the most latest learnings are much more quicker than what in general somebody could have tapped onto. Oh, which is fantastic. I mean, of course, like why wouldn't somebody want to come to you? You should.
You should.
Definitely. So that makes me want to know more about when you talk about you've talked about making leadership more approachable, more practical. Then you've would you like to share a bit about this entire leadership formula that you had mentioned to me before? So would you like to share more about that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Leadership formula is great. So the 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 disclaimer or just the context is that we're all leaders in some way, shape, and form,
Absolutely.
right? Now, some folks might have a title, formal job title. They are formal leaders within an organization. For others, situational leadership is showing up. For all of us, self leadership is regularly showing or should be regularly showing up. Self leadership is what earns you the right to be able to lead others. You've got to be able to lead yourself in some way before you can lead others. Or another way of putting it is if you can't lead yourself to some kind of growth, what business do you have leading anyone else? So it starts with self. The way I describe the leadership formula is that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. This is something that I learned from Dr. John Maxwell. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Influence, if we break that down, I know the word influence often gets a negative connotation, but we're talking about influence in an ethical, appropriate way. Influence is the ability to take someone from where they're at to where they want to go.
Yeah.
Or if you have vision and perspective that others don't, influence is the ability to take someone from where they're at to where you want them to go.
Okay.
Influence depends on the ability to connect. If you can't connect with your people, what are the chances you have true, legit influence and leadership? So connection is critical, which is a layer deeper than just communication. One of the main ways to build that connection is intentionally finding common ground. We know that. And then you introduce diversity of thought because you also don't want to be talking to someone that's exactly the same as you.
Yeah.
With the connection piece, it all boils down to adding value to others and valuing others. And at best, that connection game is a one-to-one exercise.
Yeah.
One conversation at a time, one person at a time. That's when we can then truly build connection, which then rolls up to influence and leadership. So, for example, when I first started all of this work, I was working with a coach. We still keep in touch. Our relationship's a little bit different now. But this individual, he lives in the States. He is a follower of the Christian faith. I'm not. We met online. We were introduced online. The more I share the story, the more it sounds like a dating story. We're not dating. He's got his family. I got my family. But we've never met in person. It was all online. But we've been able to establish a really strong relationship, one conversation at a time.
Okay.
Whether it was text, phone, Zoom, social, you can't replace that one-to-one.
Yeah.
As you move up in an organization, it gets a little bit harder. I get it. But at best, it's a one-to-one exercise.
So even while you're training somebody or when your sessions go on, do you prefer the one-to-ones, or are you still a person who would be okay with addressing to a group at this stage of your career?
Both fire me up in slightly different ways.
Okay.
I've done sessions. So keynotes are different than an actual training development engagement workshop session, right? For an actual training session, I've done as large groups as up to about 100 or so individuals, which is a lot for an actual legitimate workshop and training session. Those land different than the one-on-ones. Both of them fuel me and fire me up in different ways.
Okay.
It's very exciting to feel that buzz in the room when you're in front of a large group.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem holding attention or being able to speak in public, being able to connect with that many people at a somewhat surface to mid-surface level. You can't get super deep with that many people. but there's just a lot of energy and excitement. There's nerves, you're excited, all of those emotions wrapped up into one. The one-on-one coaching is different though. Like, this is different.
Yeah.
Because we get to now go,
Deeper.
yeah,
Yeah.
right? I've had people get emotional and cry. Not that I'm trying to make anyone cry,
course,
but
of course.
emotions come out when you're talking
They
about.
do. Yeah.
And I sometimes get to have conversations with senior leaders that they can't have with their leadership teams, or some people can't have with their partners and spouses. And my recommendation is you probably want to have a small part of this conversation with your partner. But I remember one session I had with someone a couple of years ago, sweetest guy I've ever met, we were working on some personal growth stuff, and we come out of the very first conversation, and he shares, Parm, thanks for talking to me like you're my best friend.
Oh.
It's like, oh, come on, man, you're gonna make me cry now. But those are the things, those are the exchanges that make everything possible.
They do. Yeah.
So yeah, the larger sessions versus one-on-one, they hit different, they fire me up different.
Yeah.
It's just very cool to be able to do both.
No, which is so true. Because honestly, having that for me, I mean, yes, of course, talking in public or even being dressed in public, I mean, it's pretty generic that people always connect better as a one-on-one thing. But then my question, why I asked you this question, just to know that considering the kind of good work that you do, how well does it impact on both? So it does have their own pros and cons to it, of course. So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. Both are great for me. I enjoy doing both. There's different nerves, and I get nervous every time. I think if you're not getting nervous, then maybe something's not lining up right.
Okay,
I
so it's okay to be nervous.
I think it's okay to be
Okay,
nervous. It just
okay.
means that it means that the thing coming up is important enough
Okay.
for you to be nervous about, and emotions getting a little bit higher than normal.
Yeah.
For me, if I was walking into a session and I was just cool and chill and not even a little bit nervous, I would feel like I'm in autopilot. And I don't want to be in autopilot with the work that I do, because then that's a disservice to me and others. So I think having some nerves is just like having some fear and doubt, and we'll probably get into some of this, but having some imposter syndrome show up
Yeah.
is indication that you're moving in a forward progressive way out of your comfort zone into your growth zone. Otherwise, if there's no nerves, then maybe we got a problem.
Honestly, I think that is such a good thing for me to hear. I think I needed somebody to tell me that, because every time I come in front of the camera for the podcast, I'm like, oh my God, I'm dreading this. I cannot do this. So, okay, now I know it's a good thing. It's
Yeah.
not that bad. All right. So it's
Now, how
good to be nervous.
you manage and control that is critical. If you let those nerves take over, then whatever the thing isn't going to go well, and it's just you're not gonna be able to perform to the best, right? High performers are able to manage and control their emotions and manage their thoughts, and it's not necessarily about removing fear, doubt, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, but getting good at it. I'm a firm believer that you don't get rid of it, you get good at it. That means doing the thing even though you're scared, nervous, excited, all jumbled into one.
So yeah, I think being a leader itself, this quality is something that comes with it. Am I putting this right, I hope?
Yeah, leadership is tough.
Yeah.
It's not easy, man.
Yeah.
And leaders have a lot on their plates. I know, because I get to talk to them all.
Yeah.
There's a lot that they're dealing with their teams, themselves, and they've got, their personal lives. Sometimes you just gotta show up and do it scared.
Yeah.
Or build your wings as you're trying to fly.
True.
Right? Doesn't mean that you're always operating from ambiguity and making it up as you go along. Sometimes you might need to. Sometimes it's just a matter of taking that first step and having the confidence that you'll know how to take the next step.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast with Ed Milet and Dr. John Maxwell a number of years ago, and John was talking about the analogy of driving in the dark, right? So you're driving in the dark, you put the lights on, Can you necessarily see what's 5 kilometers down the road?
No.
No. You can see 2-3 feet in
Yeah.
front of you at the most.
Yeah.
But we have confidence and certainty that we know, okay, if I drive a couple of feet forward, there's still some road there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to see that. If I drive a couple more feet forward, there's some road there. I'm going to see that.
Yeah.
So we keep taking that step, not knowing what's going on 5 kilometers. It could be a dead end. It could lead us into a lake. Hopefully not. But at least we're able to take those next few steps to see ultimately what comes next. So, and sometimes imperfect action is what you got to take. Imperfect action always beats perfect strategy, because there's no such thing as perfect strategy. Once you implement strategy, you realize it wasn't perfect to begin with, because then all the nuances come out in real time, and you find and see some of the bugs that are naturally going to come up.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you learn through your experiences, so definitely that makes sense for sure. So, love the leadership formula, and that makes me curious. That do you think effective communication, especially assertiveness, plays an important role when we think about helping leaders? What would you like to tell more about that?
100%. You're only as good as you can communicate and connect. You can have the world's best ideas up here, but if you can't find the language to effectively communicate, then it stays here, right? As a leader, you've got to be, whether, again, formal leadership, situation, we're all leaders in some way. As individuals, we have to be able to strike the right balance between assertiveness and approachability, which helps us build trust and also helps lay out expectations and boundaries, which are critical in being able to move a team towards a goal or some kind of action. I recently had a coaching session with a leader in the municipal government space, and we were talking about approachability and assertiveness, partly because some unapproachable leaders she's had in the past. Now, some of the things we talked about were pausing, so slowing down, pausing, using silence as a tool strategically to be able to deliver a point, showing your work. So if we think of grade school math and you had to show your work in long division, right? I hated those days. I was never good at long division. But sometimes as a leader, you have to be able to at least explain the thought process or the rationale, the context as to why you landed on a particular decision to bring your people on board. Whether they agree or not is different. Understanding and agreeing can be two mutually exclusive events.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to show your work. Sharing knowledge and expertise. This person had a lot of knowledge and expertise, but also didn't want to tell and direct people exactly how to do things. But using your knowledge and expertise to build guardrails, guidelines for your team to then operate within. We talked about communicating effectively. So how do you effectively balance out the words that you use, tone, how you say the words, body language, facial gestures, and volume. All of that is critical in communicating. We then went a bit more micro on approachability and assertiveness, and I shared with her a worksheet. If it's okay, we can make that worksheet available to anyone that's listening. Just mention the podcast, and I'd be happy to send it to you.
Of course.
Please reach out. My contact info will be there. But this approachability and assertiveness worksheet helps individuals then reflect on leadership tendencies and practices, identify some actionable steps and how to balance out either or, and then further evolve that leadership presence through implementation. So we talked through a whole lot of stuff. Again, the foundation and the overarching theme was approachability and assertiveness. As leaders, as individuals, as high performers, you got to balance the two and know when to pull. It's a spectrum, knowing when to move to either side of the spectrum.
Yeah. That makes sense. Sorry.
Balancing out approachability and assertiveness
Yes.
helps us show up that much more as effective leaders, effective independent contributors, just effective individuals, right? I mean, you can take this into personal life and family, friends, being able to build in empathy, kindness, which is the approachability side, and then the assertiveness with boundaries and expectations, and ensuring letting people know how you want to be treated, for example, so that this kind of transcends across environments, audiences, categories of life.
Right. That's that's I think a smart way to look at things. And when we like you work with people when you talk about things about communication, mindset, assertiveness, all the good stuff that you've mentioned about, and also alignment, of course. So then, how can people align for who they are and what they want to be? Like,
Yeah,
how do they work on that? Could you give us a little tips on it,
for
maybe?
sure. Some of what I'll share is tactical, tangible, real, legit. Meaning, uh, if you have bills to pay and you need cash flow, find regular income. That's okay. Get a job,
Yeah.
right? My entire family they continue to work 9 to 5,
Yeah.
right? Get a job.
Absolutely.
If you've got regular income, you need to be able to pay those bills. This way, the essentials are taken care of. You can then operate from a slightly healthier place, a safer place, to then think about what that alignment could eventually look like. Um, but that but that means that we've got to be able to take care of the bare essentials. You got to be able to provide for your family. You got to be able to take care of your bills. That alignment sometimes takes time, so it's okay to get some regular income. Once you're in a healthier place and have space to ideate and strategize, then it's not so much about finding that magic P word, passion, but what is it that you're good at? Maybe that aligns with passion or not, right? So, for example, if you're passionate about serving the community and helping people, okay, that's great. Maybe that's something that you do on the side. Maybe you volunteer.
Yeah.
Or if you're passionate about animals, maybe you work part time at the animal shelter.
Yeah.
Passion doesn't always necessarily mean I've got to work at that thing, because then you've got to look at that thing in a different way, because you got to then be able to monetize and provide for you and your family,
Yeah.
right? So you've got to, and that might tax and impact the thing that you are passionate about. So sometimes passion is separate. My recommendation for folks is find what you're good at, what you're skilled at, as long as it solves a problem and solves an obstacle or a need that the market has, and then figure out if perhaps you might be able to monetize on it. Now, that takes time. You've got to be good at that thing, because otherwise, if you're not cheaper, more reliable, faster, better than your competition, why is anyone going to want to bother with you, right? So you've got to have some kind of a competitive advantage, but also finding some space and time to experiment, because that alignment isn't found in theory; it's found in practice.
Practice. Yeah. Practical. Good. What really caught on to me at this point was your passion and what you can do. If they are the same thing, fantastic. You're in that sweet spot already. But if not, then it's mentally even agreeing to it that no, I know this, but maybe I'm not passionate about it, for example. Or maybe I'm passionate about this and I have the mindset, no, I can do it. It's not that I cannot. Or maybe I could try. Um, that also takes a little time. And I think it's a great advice when you say that you have to pay your bills. So find your base income find that, keep that in place, and then later on figure out the space where you could grow. So I think that's great advice. It's just the idea of passion and what you can do. It's it's just makes me realize that, like, I enjoy art and craft related stuffs, right? I'm passionate about it. I can do it. It's my thing. But then it always comes down to, oh, but I need to get my bills right first. I can't just survive on it, right? Because it takes time to even grow a business. It takes time to get to a point where you're on a no profit, no loss place, right? So then it's not that I cannot do it, but this might not be the right time to do it. So it just it hit the nail on the head when you said that, honestly speaking. So I thought, let me bring that up.
Yeah, and this is I just offer a way, not the way,
Yeah.
a way to think about this,
Yeah.
right? I'm passionate about a lot of things,
Yeah.
and I keep them on the side because what I'm good at is leadership development, team engagement, and coaching. I happen to be passionate about that also. Not all the time. Sometimes it's just a lot of work.
It is.
It's work, but I try to find the moments that I enjoy, that I'm excited about. I just happen to be good at this. There are other things that I enjoy in life that are completely on the side
Yeah.
that I don't monetize from because it may just pull the passion out of it. Because now you've got to think about it in a different way.
Yeah.
The pressure's on in a slightly different way because you got to then be able to operate in the business and on the business.
Yeah. And I think that is that's what is important when you think of monetizing your passion and what you can do, because then now you're not looking at it just as a passion project, but it's more than that. So even accepting that, I don't know if it's an easy job or not. I find it's not that easy because like you, if you're passionate about something, you get so pulled into it that, oh, this is like your passion project. But then when you talk about paying bills, your passion project needs to be even looked from a different angle, which you rightly pointed out. So, yeah, you actually hit the nail on the head. So thank you. All right. Okay. So we're talking about passion project. Like, I am a newcomer myself to this country, and though it's been a couple of years for me to settle into here, but then, like, newcomers in general struggle with doubt, with fear, and then, though they are passionate about something, they can do something, but then it's not that they are able to on an immediate basis. So, and they don't feel, you know that they could do what they want to, or they don't feel represented. Like, there's so many aspects to it when we talk about passion, or what they want to do, or leadership in general. If we talk about that, then what advice do you give for people like so who are in self-doubt that they are leaders in their own right? Do you want to shine light on that?
Sure. So there's a couple of things, right? We can talk about the representation piece and the self doubt piece.
Okay.
So with representation, I can appreciate and understand what it's like feeling that you're alone or that you're the only one. Right. For those of us that look different, we've all felt it. Now, my background is communications, public relations. I've got a master's in communications management. For the longest time, and only up until a few years ago, I thought I was the only one. And when I did my master's program, I was the only one in that cohort, and within the sector, at least within the GTA. I didn't know another turbaned, brown-skinned, with a beard that looked like me doing the work that I was doing. It's not always easy being the only one because yes, while you're excited, you're also trying to find your own way. You have then the added pressure of representing others that look like you while you're just trying to figure out your own stuff.
Yeah.
That's not easy. That's a lot of pressure and stress. Up until a few years ago, I thought I was the only one until I met my new buddy, Rishpal, who is another turban Sikh individual in the communications master's program that I had graduated from. And you don't need a lot of words when you recognize someone who's walked a similar path. You don't need a lot of words to appreciate and understand what they're feeling like when they walk into a room and when they're the only one because you've lived it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a simple nod, and that's all the acknowledgement we need. And
Absolutely.
that's all the reassurance you often need to be able to let someone know, hey, I got you. I feel you.
Yeah.
I'm here. We'll figure it out together. So it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I had met Rishpal. We've stayed in touch. Representation in the workforce, in the workplace, isn't just about being the only one in the room, but it's also what's possible for others that see you in that room. You saying yes to being the only one in that room might be someone else's permission slip 2 or 3 years down the road,
Yeah.
which then opens it up for others. It's hard going first. It's hard going second.
Yeah.
But hopefully, if we can pave the path for others, it gets a little bit easier down the road, because then they can turn their attention to actually performing at a higher level right off the bat without having to prove themselves as soon as you walk into a room, because now everyone's looking at you.
Yeah.
Right? So representation matters. For those that are first, I salute you, because that takes a lot of courage. For those that are second, I salute you, because that takes a lot of strength and heart. But you are likely paving the way for other people. Do it scared. With the self-doubt piece, again, if you're putting in the work, maybe self-doubt and imposter syndrome is an indication that you're moving from your comfort zone to your growth zone. Now, you've got to have some baseline competency in your thing. Like, you got to be good.
Yeah.
You can't just half-ass it, right? You've got to be good. And you've got to be better than the person next to you. Otherwise, they're going to get the job, they're going to get the opportunity, and you're not. You got to be better, faster, more knowledgeable. There's going to be some unique value or unique perspective that you add to the mix. So you've got to have some baseline competence, which then leads to the confidence. I'm of the belief that confidence is not a prerequisite, it's a result. Confidence is built through competence and repetition. You keep doing the thing, you get better at it, you reflect, correct, you iterate, which then builds the confidence. And to me, when I think of confidence, it's as long as I have the right tools and resources, I can perform.
Yeah, right.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Then there's certainty. That's different. Certainty is regardless of the tools and resources and environment, I can perform. That's where we need to get to. Regardless of who's around me, whatever the situation, circumstance is, whether it's ambiguous or uncertain, I can produce. But it all starts with a competency piece. We've got to get good. So for those for who self-doubt, imposter syndrome shows up, get good fast, keep iterating and reflecting and correcting your thing. And eventually, if you are intentional and getting better on purpose, that leads to the confidence, which then ultimately leads to certainty if it's done in the right way. And I share that because that's what I've gone through.
Okay.
Right? The first few coaching sessions I did were bad, and they were not good. The first few training and development sessions I did, bad, not good. I was scared out of my mind, but I've gotten better.
Yeah.
I've tweaked my approach. Now I know I can walk into a situation regardless of who's there, however many people, whether tech's working for me or not, I can go in and perform.
You reach a certainty level now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Not to say that I'm perfect. There's still things that I need to learn and evolve in.
Yeah.
But I can walk into a room and I know I got this.
Yeah.
It might take me a minute to just assess things that are different, but I'm good.
Yeah. So repetition gave you confidence. Confidence led to your certainty stage at this point. And now, so it's like you can read the room and pave your path accordingly.
Yeah.
So that's great. I mean, and it's important as a leader. I feel it's important for you to read the room, because if you are not able to read the room, then you won't be able to deliver in that manner. So it's important as a leader for you to read the room, and I think that's where the confidence and the certainty aspect will come into picture. Like you being a leader, being certain of what you're doing. So
Can I share an example with you when I didn't get it right?
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That would actually be helpful, to be honest. Yeah, because I mean, at some level, I mean, there might be some people who understand what probably you just shared about the confidence and the repetition, and then reaching to a certain level. But if you have an example that you can share, that would actually give more clarity to people who are still getting on the path and getting there. So yeah.
So I was doing a training for a couple of years ago for it was a healthcare team in the healthcare sector, and I had met with the leader. We had gone through the no, I had met with the leader. We had talked about what the session was going to look like, and I hadn't done a dry run with that leader. We went into the session. I delivered. Coming out of that session, the feedback I got from that leader was, Parm, that was good, but that wasn't what we had expected.
Oh,
So that hit me.
of course.
That hit me. And I was feeling like crap for a good 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Because and this was fairly early on when I was getting started, and that shakes your confidence a
Yeah.
bit. So it took me a couple of days to recover from it and to figure out, okay, how, like, what do I do? So I ended up not charging them because I just felt so bad. So I'm like, okay, it's it's fine. I'll cover the cost. I'm not going to charge you. And then I went back and I refined my process. So what that meant was I now do a dry run with the leader or with my contact person before any training and development experience, so that they get to see the approach firsthand, right? We do a debrief, we do feedback and assessments. So that process now and that workflow is now that much more involved, and it's that much more strategic. What really helped was that dry run, because there's been a number of instances now where I do a dry run, I get the leader to see all the materials, sign off, and there are some nuanced changes that we need to make, which is great,
Yeah.
right? At least coming out of that session, me and that person are aligned. And if for whatever reason it doesn't land with the team, it's now a joint responsibility and accountability. So there are times where you might be working on your thing and you're trying to get good at a particular skill and it just doesn't go right.
Yeah.
That's where I try to use the 24-hour or 48-hour rule, depending on who you ask, where you treat success and failure in the same way. Meaning, whether it's 24 hours or 48 hours, if it's a failure, take the time to feel bad, right? Take the time to feel crappy, sit in those emotions. Whether it's 24 hours or 48 hours, I usually tell people 48 hours. And then after that time is done, now we got to get back up and get back to work.
Yeah.
Now the emotions are done. Now let's continue to operate and perform.
Yeah.
Same thing with success. If you achieve success or you hit a milestone, great. Celebrate for those 24 hours or the 48, the same time as you would feel crappy for. Once those 24 or 48 hours is done, it's time to get back to work.
I love the
We got to
48 hour
produce.
rule. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we got to produce. Now we get back to work. So now we treat success and failure relatively in the same way.
Yes.
So hopefully it takes the emotion out when failure hits, because it's gonna hit.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the 48-hour rule. I think I'm gonna do that for a good now onwards. Because yeah, I mean you feel down, you feel depressed when something or you've not done something on some level of expectations that was set. So and well, if you are someone who could self-assess out of the success or the failure that you have achieved, and amend it and make amendments in the positive or the negative positive manner, possibly, then I feel that's one trait of a good leader. Correct me if I'm wrong. You might know this better, but this is something which I personally feel, or a person in general, like you are taking into consideration what you did was for the good or the bad. So yeah, that's my take on it. You could tell me if it's the right take or not.
That's bang on. That's
Okay.
bang on, right? You got to iterate,
Yeah.
just consistency.
And that builds confidence at
Right?
the end of the day.
Yeah, consistency compounds. Competency, keep putting in the work. If you're consistent and you keep iterating, there's no way you don't succeed.
No. Yeah.
It just might take some time depending on a whole stack load of circumstances, some of which may not even be in your control.
Yeah.
But it's the consistency and constant iterative process. Doesn't mean you blow everything up and start from scratch all over again, but you might just need to refine some things in your approach based on whatever the thing is that you're looking to get skilled in.
Yeah, absolutely. Fine tuning is the key to success. Somewhere, like I think I read this somewhere. I hope this makes sense here too. So when we've spoken about confidence, we've spoken about getting to a level that's certainty, right? So, and now we're talking about, and we're also talking about newcomers. So, how do you reckon newcomers to Canada would see themselves as leaders? Um, how do you want to shine your light on that?
Ooh, that's a good one. So my family and I moved from the UK to Canada when me and my brother were very young. My parents made a very brave, courageous, and bold decision to move from the UK to Toronto. They had to navigate the immigration process, shipping, packing, finding school for my brother and I, finding themselves jobs, finding a place to live. My dad had two jobs lined up the day that he was supposed to start work. And he was a mechanic. He's been in the auto industry his entire career. And these were mechanic jobs at two different dealerships. The way that he decided was which location was closer to walk to because we didn't have a car and we were living in a rented basement.
Yeah, yeah,
So he decided, obviously, that the closer the distance, that's the preferred job.
yeah.
My parents have worked their hearts out and they've worked their butts off to provide for my brother and I, for other extended members of the family, sacrificing their own health, well-being, or even needs. All of this takes situational awareness, empathy, communication, accountability, working your way through ambiguity, all leadership traits. So this is where the self-leadership or situational leadership shows up, right? We talked about this at the very beginning. You don't have to have a formal title to be a leader. These are all leadership traits.
Can I add one more trait to it? Having the mental strength. Because you need to be really mentally strong and firm that you want to do this. So,
Approachability, assertiveness,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you're a newcomer to any country, every day requires courage, confidence, decision making, leading through ambiguity. That's leadership in action. That's not theory, man. Now you're living it.
Yeah.
That's the good stuff,
Yeah.
right? So if you're a newcomer, I'd encourage you to write down those moments of self-leadership. Write down those skills. Have some examples and stories that bring those skills to light and to life, and be able to introduce those at the right time in the right place with the right people to show those transferable leadership skills.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So if you're a newcomer, you're leading through a ton of ambiguity and you're doing it scared.
Yeah.
So let's take some of those transferable leadership skills, sprinkle them in to whatever stories and the individuals that you're having conversations with, and use that as some kind of a foundation to then move forward.
I also see it. I would like to go back to the example that you shared about driving in the dark and having your headlights on. It's something like that also, right? Because you, as a newcomer, you don't know so many things. You don't know what the lifestyle is like, what the culture is like, what kind of I don't know, schooling, how is it like? Like there's so many things. And if you're coming with a family, you're actually experiencing all those avenues. And then now you're actually, the only thing that you can see is the light, which is 5 feet ahead of you. And then you kind of take your steps accordingly. So yeah, I mean, newcomers are definitely leaders in their own right in many, many ways. And I think we should remember that. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. That's such a nice way to put to make newcomers feel good about themselves and relish that moment of no, it's not that we might be doing something wrong in many ways, but there's so many things that we're doing right. So thank you for shining light there.
Yeah, and maybe it's not so much you're doing certain things wrong, but you're tackling so many things. Right, there's so much to do when you're trying to get established, and if you've got a family with you, you multiply that doubt and that fear by 10 or 20, whatever. But you're juggling so much, and it's so scary.
Yeah.
one day at a time, one step at a time. It's not easy.
It's not easy.
I appreciate and understand that because we've lived through it, and it's been a number of years since we've moved. But it isn't easy. Please give yourself some time. Find others that you're able to speak to along the journey, and just know that as long as you keep putting in that effort and constantly keep iterating and getting better at that thing, there's no chance you don't find a way to make it work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that makes sense. So this brings me to the last question of our chat today, that if you got a chance to go back in time and advise your 16-year-old self, or even tell a joke to 16-year-old Parm, what would that be?
Okay. A couple of things. So one is the competency piece. So get good, get fast. Get good fast, but also be willing to experiment. Not that I'm trying to remember, did I or didn't I? I can't remember. It's been a while. But get good fast. It's okay to experiment, to find your thing. Sometimes that experimentation comes later in life. So I joke around. I had a midlife career change, not a midlife crisis where I went out and bought a red Corvette. Not that there's anything wrong with buying a red Corvette, but I had a midlife career change where I shifted industries from public relations communications, which I had spent my entire career in, to now learning organizational development, leadership development, team engagement, coaching. The more you can experiment as you're coming out of school, the greater the chance you find your thing, what you're good at, what you can potentially monetize, maybe separate from passion, like we talked about, what you're good at, what you can likely monetize. The sooner you find that thing and you start building. Something that I would go back and remind others, including myself, is a lesson that I learned in my master's program from one of our professors. And he said it much more eloquently than me. But at that time, because we were in the world of communications and PR, it was something to the effect of, you're not just communications or public relations practitioners. We need to be well-rounded business professionals who happen to be all-stars in the world of comms and PR. What that translates to in my head is have an opinion, have something valuable to say about a variety of things, right? Be an expert in one, but have an opinion. Or if you're invited into conversation, have something to say. Otherwise, why are you there? You're taking up space. Have an opinion, ask questions. The more you do that, the more they, collective, will ask you for your opinion at some point. That's another way to build influence and leadership. Is having something to say, a nuanced approach. Over time, if you repeat that, then you get asked what your opinion is. Oh, this is a great feeling. Me? You're asking me, really? Okay, well, I got something to say. Here it is. So have an opinion across a variety of topics, or even if it's just asking questions for clarity, and also be able to show your expertise in whatever specific vertical.
A point to that, when you said that if you're in a group, have an opinion. You mean an opinion could also be, you could potentially also be part of the group because you're learning something. So when you say having an opinion, does that also mean having questions as an opinion?
Yeah, good leaders ask great questions.
Okay. And no question is a stupid question.
There is no such thing as a stupid question, correct. Questions are a great way to get yourself heard. How you ask the question matters. The language you use, the tonality, the cadence, the body language, facial gestures, all of that matters. If you're putting your hand up and asking a question like you're scared, that's going to impact your personal brand. If you put your hand up or you're asking a question with confidence and certainty, that's going to affect your personal brand. So how you ask the question matters. But yes, asking good questions is another great way to have your voice heard, and then at some point you offer some insight or perspective based on the questions and the data and intel that you're gathering.
Makes sense. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to divert you from the advice that you were giving to your 16-year-old self.
Yeah, that was essentially it, is get good, experiment, and have an opinion. be able to ask the right questions at the right time.
I love that. That's so thoughtful. Because you're absolutely right. That's the age where you can actually switch so easily and navigate through so many options. Because when I'm not saying it's not possible. I mean, but then it's just that when there is additional responsibilities that come on you, that's when you start thinking, oh, I need to get that baseline fund in place, and then I can think about my passions. You get to that point. But then that, I'm not saying that that age group might not have that. There could be some people who might be going through that too. But then yet the majority do have the option to be relatively responsibility free, to to jump and navigate different options, figure out their passion, see what aligns with what they do, and if not, then how the money stream can come into place. So that's, I think, great advice, not just for your 16-year-old self, but that's great advice in general. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
It has been such a pleasure to have this chat with you, Parm. Thank you so much for joining us at Elevate. And we look forward to further more conversations if given an opportunity.
For sure. Thank you very much for having me. Great work by you and the team. Uh, it's been a pleasure to be able to share a few thoughts with you today.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome.